As Netflix obviously already knows, Cobra Kai never dies. What's up, guys? Well, we finally got our season 3 of Cobra Kai. I got a chance to check it out a little bit early, so this is going to be as spoiler-free as I possibly can make it. There's a lot of things in this season I'm not going to be able to talk in detail with. I'm probably going to do a ranking of the seasons here in a couple of days, so once it's actually debuted live, check my channel, you'll see a ranking, and I'll be able to get a few more spoiler details out with that. So if you haven't seen it yet, if you're watching this early, have no fear, I'm not going to spoil anything about this season for you. So Netflix acquired Cobra Kai back earlier on this year. I reviewed season 1 and season 2 kind of in celebration of that, as also in really hyping up season 3. Finally, it's here on January 1st. You're going to be able to watch it on Netflix, and a lot of things happen this season that merit a lot of discussion. But really quick, before I get into all that, I want to tell you guys about Into the AM, which is an apparel company. This is actually one of their shirts that they sent me. I'm going to have a link down below if you guys want to check out everything that they have to offer. I also have a discount code down below, but it's a very cool, unique apparel company. They have a lot of interesting designs that appeal to a lot of different demographics. And for me, it's more so about how comfortable these shirts are. I'm somebody where t-shirts are very particular for me. It's got to be a certain softness, and I'm a big, tall guy, so it's hard for me to often find t-shirts that don't fit really snug or feel too loose, but yet are lengthy enough for me. Oftentimes I find a shirt that fits perfect, but if I just kind of do this, my belly button's showing. So Into the AM, a lot of really great stuff. Check out the link down below. You will not regret it. Thank you. So as we left season 2, you had the dueling dojos of Miyagi-Do Karate and Cobra Kai Karate. You had John Kreese back into the fold, who was kind of slowly pulling the Cobra Kai kids, or at least some of them, away from Sensei Lawrence. At the very end, a huge brawl breaks out at the school, and you get a lot of kids that are pretty fucked up, but you also get Miguel that is kicked off of a balcony by Robbie, cracks his spine on a staircase, and we are left basically all in shambles, wondering what is going to happen now. The main character for the most part of the show now might not ever be able to walk again. The two senseis that have been dueling it out for 2 seasons with Daniel and Johnny can't even look at each other, can't even speak to each other. And that's pretty much where we're left off, and season 3 continues right off with that. The Big School Brawl is something that is very much like affected the community, affected all of the parents and the kids, and much like a school shooting, it's like they've kind of changed how schools are. They changed the rules. There's, scanners coming in now to make sure you're not having karate weapons with you, and there's these little programs where you can't engage with another student in a negative way, and it's a big storyline for the kids of this season. But there's also some ramifications in the 2 senseis, where you have Johnny, who's basically lost Cobra Kai to John Kreese. John Kreese is now manipulating the kids the same way that he's done every other time that we've seen him in this series as well as the movies. And he's back to being where he was at the beginning of the series, where he's kind of a drunk schlub that just walks around, really has no will to live. And then you have Daniel, who seems like he'd be able to walk away from this scot-free, but being that his student is the one that kicked Miguel off of the balcony and caused this horrific event, he gets no business whatsoever as far as his karate. His business at his dealership is starting to dwindle, and his name has been dragged through the mud because of this huge event. So the last episode or 2 of season 2 has a big ramification in season 3, and really it's all about the cleanup of everything from season 2 for most of this season. Getting the dojos back, getting Johnny back in charge of Cobra Kai, getting Daniel back into good graces with people, trying to find Robbie and get him back because the cops are after him for what he did at the end of the season, trying to get Miguel walking again. Even Sam, his daughter, kind of has PTSD, and this is something where that's mostly her whole storyline this season, is just kind of where she felt like she was this badass in season 2. Now she's kind of like affected and doesn't really know if she wants to have any karate in her life anymore, which obviously is a big deal for Daniel. So that's kind of setting the stages without giving away too much for what the early kind of storytelling, the early plot lines of this season is as it goes through these 10 episodes. And starting off with the positives for season 3, while not being able to talk about it very much, I loved all of the storyline regarding the rehabilitation of Miguel as well as the rehabilitation of Johnny. These are the 2 characters that pretty much kicked off this series. Obviously Daniel's a big part of that too, but this series is much more focused on them, where the movies was more focused on Daniel. And I feel like in season 2, purposely for plot reasons, they kind of separated those two a little bit, Johnny and Miguel, and they kind of bring that back, that flavor that we had in season 1, that great interaction that they had where they're training. They kind of bring that back a little bit in season 3, and to me, it was something that I actually missed in season 2. So everything regarding those two, their relationship mending, them both growing as people, even the soundtrack when they're together. Like there's an episode where they're doing things and then Wasp came on, and I immediately texted my dad. I was like, Cobra Kai season 3 just dropped a Wasp tune. That's automatically 1 star. And as the trailer has shown, they even go to a Dee Snider concert. There's another star. I also loved Daniel's journey in this one. Now, there were some things let loose in the trailer, but I'm still instructed not to talk too much about them. So I would just say the journey that he takes to kind of find what he has lost in season 2, the place that he goes, as well as some of the people that he interacts with, which has some very huge ramifications from some of the movies before the Cobra Kai series, was probably the best part of the season for me. With those couple of episodes that focused on him and all of these things that is going to bring him out of his funk, to me just hit the most feels. There's a spot in there that involves Mr. Miyagi and a letter that he wrote that will bring any fan of this franchise damn near to tears. It was the strongest emotional part of the season, and to me that was the part of the season that, even though they showed part of it in the trailer, I was like, okay, I'm expecting it. It's not going to be the biggest surprise of the season, but when we got there, I couldn't stop watching. I had to keep going and watching it, and regardless how late it was, until we were out of that part of the story, then I was like, all right, I can go to bed now and I can finish it tomorrow. Dimitri! Those of you that have saw my first 2 season reviews know that I have some thoughts about this character, especially in season 2. I thought he was unbearably annoying. I know that's kind of the neurotic character that they're trying to bring out with this guy. That's his whole purpose on the show, but it was just turned up way too much in season 2 to the point where I'm like, okay, if I was in Miyagi-Do, I would want to punch this fucking dude out. So season 3 changes all of that. They make this dude a valuable character to me personally. A lot of people probably still already love him anyway, but to me, I was like, okay, now you're doing things with him that I can track with. I love this. I love seeing where they took him, even just small little subtle things that happen that just, as a person that has known kids like that, and maybe even the person who was that kid at one point to a varying degree, when you see certain things that he does, you're like, yes, now you have broken out of your chrysalis and you were a badass butterfly. And finally, I really love where things ended up this season, where everything wraps up and where they tease things are going to go in season 4. It's a very exciting direction to go. It's something that, has kind of been brewing for a little bit. It's something that we could probably see coming at some point, but now that it's actually here, when you get to the final episode and see where all the pieces, all the dominoes are getting laid out to be knocked over in season 4, it's an exciting place to be in the Cobra Kai storyline. Unfortunately though, I had quite a few problems with this season. This is definitely the season that I've had the most problems with. And I'm not sure yet, because this is an early screener, whether or not I'm going to be on an island with some of these thoughts, or if when the chips fall, if a lot of people are going to be agreeing with me. I'm not sure. I've only had one friend that I've been able to discuss this season with. He hasn't had really any of the issues that I've had, so I don't know, but I do have some issues with season 3. The main issue being the writing, prominently the dialogue writing. The first 2 episodes of this season, I'm not sure if it's because I was just so excited that I got to see it early and my expectations were too high. I'm not sure, but some of the dialogue coming out of these characters' mouths in the first couple of episodes and in spots throughout the rest of the season, I just thought was flat out bad. Some of it just felt unnatural. Some of it felt just overly written to be kind of corny and funny, but just not quite getting there in the funny part. And there's even some lines later on in the season that aren't meant to be funny, but they're so unnatural, either because of the performance or because of the way that it was written, that I hear it and I'm like, oh, that makes absolutely no sense for that collection of words to come out of that character's mouth. I can get more specific when I talk spoilers, but there was one line of dialogue, especially in the finale, where I was like, that made no sense for that person to say that at all. And it just threw me off for like the next 5 minutes. Breaking it down a little bit more specifically, I hated Robbie's storyline in this season. I actually think it destroyed my entire enjoyment of the character. This series has a tendency to kind of, at least for the first couple of seasons, change how characters are. You get the bad boy Robbie that suddenly is now the, heir apparent to Miyagi-Do. You get kind of the kid who's the innocent geek who kind of turns into the main bully in Miguel, and there's allegiance changes and there's personality changes throughout the entire show. But it was such a hard change to have him from where he has grown in season 1 all the way through to season 2, to have this one singular mistake that he makes with kicking Miguel and he falls, to now suddenly he's now a total prick again and doesn't trust Daniel, doesn't trust his father, which he never did, and there's like no room whatsoever for that relationship to grow. And that kind of gets a little frustrating for me, that all the interactions that they continue to have, there's never like any hope whatsoever for that relationship. And it just feels like you keep bringing it. You got to give me something. You got to give me a little nugget to think that maybe one day, through all of these trials and tribulations of Cobra Kai, that father and son can once again be mended. And they just never do that all the way through in this season. Every time Johnny shows up around Robbie, it's like, fuck you, Dad. And I'm like, we've been saying fuck you, Dad, for 2 seasons. Now we're on season 3. Give me something different. There's just decisions that this character makes. There's rationales that he comes to that I just could not track with. I could not buy into it. And it just seemed like they just had to shove him a certain direction. And I did not enjoy seeing that character go that direction, to the point where wherever they decide to take him in season 4, I'm not really going to be that invested in him. He's kind of off to the sidelines now. He's background noise. Now I'm focusing on Miguel and some of the other characters, and Robbie, whatever, dude. And coming along with that is the character of Hawk. Now, Hawk is very obviously placed into the ultra bully role. He was in the last season. They ham it up even more in this one, to where he goes certain directions to where it's like, okay, this guy is never coming back. That he is full-blown asshole now. He's destroyed all friendships and all ties to his previous life as Eli. Now he's just the head Cobra Kai dickhead. And there's just certain things that he does in this season where all season they try to make it seem like he's having this internal struggle, and they never quite sell you on it, because he does things and then it just kind of focuses on his face where it looks like he's thinking about it, and you can never really be convinced that he's actually thinking about it, because he never does anything to maybe show signs that he could be having some humanity or some difficulty with what he's doing. He's just a dick the entire time. And it got to the point where there's a certain spot in this season where he makes a decision out of absolutely nowhere. No lead up, nothing but some dialogue in his head to even give us a hint that he's thinking about doing this. He does it, and I'm like, that is bullshit. That does not track at all. That doesn't make any sense with where you have taken this character this entire season, or this entire show for that matter. And I am not sold whatsoever on where you have left this character. And it's to the point where, just like with Robbie, it felt like they had to have him in a certain place, so they just shoved him there, when there was so many opportunities to just naturally write that character to make that decision. And it's like, dude, this is writing 101. You did it really good in seasons 1 and 2. Did you hire a new writer for season 3? Because the dialogue was one hint. This character shit, this is major stuff. This is season 3. This is big, huge tectonic shifts in your characters. And we're just gonna do this now. No, it doesn't work that way. Unfortunately, too, I found a lot of the fight sequences to be underwhelming in this one. Now, season 2 really pushed the boundaries with that. Like, I thought it was over the top as hell, and that was one of my criticisms with season 2, but I still enjoyed the hell out of it. That whole epic fight in the school, but it was choreographed really well. Whether or not you feel it was over top enough, or it was too over the top, it was just so well choreographed, where you had so many different rivalries and the camera would just cut between them. You would transition from these two characters fighting, and they would swing and pan out of the camera, and then these two characters are your focus. Season 3, not so much. There's a couple of spots where you get fight scenes like that, and there was one spot in particular where two characters are fighting, and they're the focus of the camera, and you look in the background, and two other major characters, not extras, major characters are fighting in the background, and it literally looked like this. Usually you can sell it, like they're moving around too quick, they're doing something, so you know that they have to pull their punches as actors, but you see it clear as day, they're like, is it our turn yet? And I was like, oh my God, they left that in. And there's another fight that I can't talk too specifically on where they have to use a double, and the double was terrible. I don't know if it's the way that they shot it, or if they just did not put enough effort into making this double look like the character that he was supposed to be, but there are so many cuts to this double that it was so goddamn distracting that that was obviously not the character this guy was supposed to be fighting, and the fight lost all impact for me. I usually try not to be that hard because I know realistically that person can't fight, so I get it, but you gotta sell us on it. This is like bad 80s movies level of doubles, and it's like, whoa, you're doing this huge fight. This is an impactful moment in this storyline, and all I can think about the entire time is not the impact of this moment, it's that motherfucker's head is not him. The haircut's not even the same. The hair color's not even the same. There's also some sequences in this season that's kind of sprinkled throughout that is trying to flesh out the background of a major character that we don't know a whole lot about. And what they were going for, I understand. I just think the execution was terrible. I think that these sequences to try to make us understand this character more, or at least give us some kind of a background into how they become the way that they are, I don't think it added anything to the character. It's not to the point where like he was mysterious at one point and now you kind of destroyed some of the mystery, which I have a huge problem with flashbacks or prequel movies. But this was just more so of, okay, that's cool. That's not an interesting explanation for why this character exists the way that he does, and I don't think it adds anything to him. Like, taking all of that away and just not knowing was better, because that's just, that explanation doesn't add anything at all. And my final negative, and I apologize for how vague I have to be in a lot of these. Again, I'll be able to talk more specifically with my ranking. I might do a spoiler review, I don't know, but probably just a ranking. There was one conflict that they kept teasing throughout this entire season. You know, this boiling pot that was eventually going to boil over by the season finale. That, you know, I kept thinking maybe they were going to pull a switcheroo, or they were going to do something to like flesh out one side of this conflict a little bit more so that we understand both sides. They try to do that a couple of times, and then it kind of disappears from the season for a while. And eventually when that clash finally does happen, nothing happens. Without giving away too much, like, you're waiting all season for something to happen out of this rivalry, and it's like, oh, it's here, and we'll see you next year. No, you don't do that. That's stepstone storytelling, which is another one of my big pet peeves. If you're gonna hint at a storyline, give us that storyline. Don't hint at it for an entire season and then say, next year you'll get the answer. See you next time, guys. That's Walking Dead shit. That's not Cobra Kai shit. Don't do it. Don't do it. So overall, guys, hopefully this review was coherent without me having to get specific, because there were so many things that I did not want to spoil having seen this early, but this was a season that overall I enjoyed it. Like, I had a better than mediocre experience with it, but it is certainly a step down from the first two seasons for me. I don't know if I'm going to be alone in that, or if there's going to be a lot of people, or it's going to be divisive. We'll see whenever this thing actually debuts on January 1st, but for me, a lot of the writing just did not match up to where it was in previous seasons. There was some great stuff, some great moments, some great character things that was going on, some great relationship dynamics, some really cool callbacks slash cameos slash, you know, build up from the movies that were very important with this season that I really appreciated. But there was also all those things in the negative light, and it was a little bit more prominent with that, where you have a lot of bad writing, a lot of incoherent character decisions, a lot of forced decisions to where there was no smooth transitions for where people are trying to shift from the beginning of the season to the end of the season. And there was even a point, which I couldn't talk to specifically, to where one character from the movie's placement in this didn't feel like it was all that earned to me. So I'm gonna have to do a fucking spoiler review. I'm saying it now. I'm gonna do a spoiler review for Cobra Kai. It'll debut maybe on the 2nd or something, but keep your eyes peeled for that, because there's things I gotta discuss without just keep saying those characters and that guy and somebody, and that shit drives me nuts. So, vague thoughts, but thoughts nonetheless. This is a season that was pretty good, not up to my expectations for what the show has given me thus far. So if you're a fan of Cobra Kai, you've enjoyed season 1 and 2, maybe walk into this one with some tempered expectations, but there is still plenty of this season that you're going to enjoy, some rides that you're going to want to go along with, but you're going to have to get through a lot of mediocre writing and some pretty shifty fight choreography to get there. So check this thing out on Netflix on January 1st and stream it. So what do you guys think of Cobra Kai Season 3? Are you understanding some of the things that I'm hinting at, or do you think I'm nuts and this was the best season yet? You can't wait for Season 4? Let me know all your thoughts down below. Try to keep them spoiler-free if you have seen this in a screener. Wait till the first at least to start dropping some spoilers, but you've all been warned. Don't check the comments if you don't want to see anything. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like and share this video. Hit that subscribe button if you want to check out all of my other videos, including the other 2 seasons of Cobra Kai. I probably posted cards throughout this video, but there's some other shit there. There's a Karate Kid ranking too. Check that out. You'll love it. And as always, guys, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean that you have to be.